Moms that have come to hypnobirthing after they've had children, so maybe they had a traumatic birth or they're coming after having a C-section and now they really want to feel empowered or try for a natural birth, always feel like, yes, everyone told me I couldn't, but I did it. And that high is just, oh, it can fill a room. You know how exuberant people feel after they've done something that somebody told them they couldn't.
Are you curious about the whole hypnobirth thing? Then today's interview episode is for you. After having a positive hypnobirth in California, Angelica moved to Washington State and had another positive hypnobirth. After one of her friends then asked her about how to have a positive birth similar to Angelica's, she recommended Hypnobirth, but they couldn't find any hypnobirth classes in the area. So she decided to fill that gap and become a hypnobirth instructor and doula herself. And now she supports families in the Tacoma and Seattle area with the birth method that helped her have 3 amazing births. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Journey to Birth podcast. Welcome to the Journey to Birth podcast. Today, I am really excited to bring Angelica Grunwald. She is the owner of Tacoma Hypnobirthing here in Washington State. She is a Latinx childbirth educator and doula who's certified with Hypnobirthing International. She teaches hypnobirthing and she also supports families as a hypno doula. So today she's going to tell us a little bit about what hypnobirthing is, what it offers, and some information about hypnodoulas. So welcome, Angelica.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about how you became interested in hypnobirthing. How were you introduced to this?
Well, I think I came to hypnobirthing like most expecting families do. I Googled it and I found a hypnobirthing teacher. I'm just joking. My experience with the medical system, I think as a woman and as a person of color, as a child even, I had a lot of times where I would go to the doctor and say, this is happening to me, or I feel this. And my doctor would say, no, it's not. And then I would say, really? And then they would say, oh, you need to have this, this, and this, and that. And then I would say, why? And they would say, because you need to feel better. And then I always felt like going to the doctor was this like, I was very scared to go to the doctor because I felt like I wasn't going to be heard. And I felt like I just had to do what the doctor told me. And when I became pregnant, this like intense fear came over me of like, I need to go to a doctor regularly to be checked up on, and they're going to poke me with a bunch of needles and they're going to strap me down. Like I had a very conventional view of birth of like what happens on the media, what my family has told me. Because I come from a family of Mexican immigrants, a lot of the births that happen in this country, my family didn't speak the language. And so there was a language barrier, a lot of very traumatic birth. And so by the time it was like, I have to go get care, I was like, this is going to be really scary. There has to be an option. I'm originally from California, from the Bay Area, a little town just an hour north of San Francisco, where you could, if you wanted to, give birth in the woods or have a C-section and have your tummy tuck at the same time. And so it was very like, you could either have this or that. And I was like, I'm not ready to birth in the woods. And I know I'm not ready to have a C-section. So let's see what's in the middle. So I Googled just like natural birth, like, how it's like the rabbit hole, right? Like you Google natural birth and then you're like, here's so many things you need to learn about. The movie that Ricky Lake did, The Business of Being Born, came up, and hypnobirthing was in there. And I think it came down to hypnobirthing and the Bradley method. And I was like, okay, I think these two. And it just so happened that the hypnobirthing instructor lived like 30 minutes from where we did. And so I was like, we're going to do that. So we went. My husband had just gotten out of the military. He's a Marine Corps vet. And so he was like, I don't even know where I could find a uterus. So we were kind of like, oh my God, we're going into this like having a baby thing, totally clueless. And we were very pleasantly surprised because our hypnobirthing instructor walked us through what my body was going to do, how my partner could support me. And we were like, wow, amazing. We had a hospital birth, but had very little intervention. I got to do it all on my own. It was a really positive, amazing birth for me. And I just kind of sat with it and thought like, wow, I must be a lucky person because everybody I talk to is like, that's not what my story sounds like. And so for a long time, I didn't share my birth story because it was a really positive birth story. And a lot of people don't want to hear positive birth stories. People just want to hear a lot of, all of the scariest parts. And I didn't have any scary parts because I felt very prepared.
I really love this visual of the birthing in the woods or a C-section.
Yeah.
I have one of those like cartoon images or comic book maybe where there's two scenarios and then like the lightning bolt thing down the middle and watching you try to choose.
That's what it felt like.
Which one you want.
That's totally what it felt like. I'm from Santa Rosa, which is close to Sebastopol. I don't know if that makes any difference to you, but yeah, it's like Sebastopol is kind of like Vashon. So like, yeah, you could like give birth in a yurt if you wanted to, which is, if that's what you want to do, that's awesome. But for my first baby, I don't think I was ready to do that. So, and then fast forward a couple of years and I'm pregnant with my second, my daughter, Sophia, and my husband got a job in Seattle. So we had to move from California to Seattle at 38 weeks pregnant, which was super, super stressful. I don't think I hadn't attended hypnobirthing again. I felt like, oh, I could just read the book again and do some breathing exercises. It'll be fine. I went into it not having a lot of expectations. Like my first one was okay. This one's going to be fine. And it was weird. It was like, you know how you learn how to drive and then like you could get into any car and drive any car kind of thing. I don't know if that's a good example, but I got into the delivery room with Sophia. I had her in like 6 hours, which is pretty amazing. Another really positive birth story. And again, I wasn't sharing it with a lot of people because that's not what people's story is usually like. And that's not what people want to hear. And then a friend of mine got pregnant and she was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm really freaked out. And so I said, let me show you my notes on hypnobirthing. I just kind of gave her the rundown, like, you should try to find a class. You should try to see if anybody can go through this with you. And then we did some more Googling and there wasn't anybody in our area. And I said, what a hole in the market. I really love hypnobirthing. I'm pretty passionate about it. Like I have a positive experience with it. So I was very fortunate to be able to attend a training in Texas. We live in the Seattle area. So Penny Simkin is like a phone call away. I mean, like we're all like 7 degrees away from her kind of thing. So if you could go to a training with her. And I met some amazing doulas here and it just kind of snowballed into this like, wow, I love birth work and I love being a teacher and I love teaching. And so it just kind of came about that way.
So that's what led you to hypnobirthing and then you became certified and now you're also a hypno doula. So did that all happen at the same time or did you do one before the other?
I was actually really happy to just be a teacher. I really just enjoyed just teaching. And I did maybe, so each hypnobirthing class is 5 sessions long. And in the first session, a couple asked me if I would come to their birth. And I said, oh, I don't know. I was really nervous and I felt I had never attended a birth that wasn't my own. So I was like, I don't know if I can support you. And they were like, you just taught us how to do it. So it's going to be fine. And so I went like every labor support doula, super nervous and, kind of dry heaving. And it was magical. It was like, I got to see the technique and I got to see a family really calmly. The family that I served had a lot of things stacked against them. It was a VBAC mom. It was her 3rd baby. They were in a military hospital. And so there was a lot of students and there were a lot of expectations of how her labor should go, right? There were a lot of like, if you don't meet this deadline, we're going to do this. And if you don't meet this deadline, we're going to do this. And so it was just nice to be there to kind of, advocate in a way that empowered the family. So like the doctor would come in and say, well, if you don't progress in the next hour, we're gonna start talking about options. And then I would like nudge the dad, and the dad would say, well, we would like 2 hours. And then, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And it was awesome. And then I think the thing that did it for me, where I was just like, birth work, was the mom had her baby. It was amazing. And then she looked at me and she said, everyone said I couldn't do it, and I did it. And I was just like, yes. And that was the ticket. I was hooked. So I signed up for the next doula training, and it wasn't until July. And I was letting people know, like, I'm going to be trained in July. If you'd like me to attend in an official manner, I'd be happy to. And so that's how I became a doula. I attended my next birth in July, and then I attended 2 births a month until I was 8 months pregnant with Lucy, which was funny because people thought I was in labor, like running into the emergency room with my, doula bag and like sweating, or like, ma'am, do you want a wheelchair? Like, I would love one, but I'm not the one giving birth. So it's amazing work, and I'm back in January, and I've already got a couple of families that I'm very fortunate to be able to support in the next year. So
Excellent. Sounds like they'll be lucky families.
Oh, thank you.
So can you tell us a little bit about what a hypnobirth looks like?
Yes, I'm really excited to answer this question, because if you Google hypnobirthing or you YouTube a hypnobirth, everybody's really quiet, and there's candles, and it's very serene, and that's totally awesome. That's exactly what that person's hypnobirth looks like. So a hypnobirth, when I like to describe it to people, is it's whatever you want your birth to be. That's a hypnobirth. So part of the exercises, or one of the exercises I like to do in the first day of class, I tell people, okay, let's relax, let's take a deep breath, and now I want you to close your eyes and just imagine the day you're giving birth. And people's faces will start to scrunch up, and then I say, what does it smell like? And then they'll say, oh, I don't want it to smell like alcohol, or I don't want it to smell like hospital. And then I say, well, what do you want it to smell like? What's your favorite smell? And then they'll say, I love lavender. Lavender is really popular in the birth world. I love the smell of lavender. Okay, so your room smells like lavender. And then then I'll say, what does the lighting look like? And they're like, oh, it's those horrible hospital lights, and there's just blinding. And I'm like, what lights would you prefer? And they're like, oh, it's early morning and the light's coming in through the window. And so they start to build this like picture of what they want their birth to look like. And not everybody's birth is the same, right? Like, some people want their baby to arrive at night, in the quiet of night, or some people want it to be in the morning, or some people want their family there. Some people want it to just be their partner. Some people want it to be filled with music that they chose, or quiet, or nature sounds. It's whatever you want it to be. And that's what I think is cool about hypnobirthing, that it doesn't have to look like anything you've ever pictured before, other than the image that you have for your family. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes perfect sense to me, because I actually do the exact same thing with my students.
Mm-hmm.
Not in a hypnobirthing program. I've never done any hypnobirth, but I do. That's one of the very first things that I have them do, because they have to break down those expectations that have been programmed into their mind from seeing things on the media, and like your experience, where it was what you'd seen on TV and stories that you'd heard from other people, that, like, we often like the drama part of things, and that applies to birth too. So I hope you now feel comfortable sharing your positive birth stories, because they are needed.
Oh, I do. I love sharing my birth story now. Even if there's special circumstances that come up in every birth, like, no circumstance ever trumps like locking eyes with your baby for the first time, or locking eyes with your partner and having that, like, we did it, and like,
Yes,
this human is ours moment. Like, it doesn't. I tell moms all the time, like, one of the big fears, like, oh, I'm going to tear, and what's going to happen if I have a tear, and is it going to hurt? I'm like, even if you tear, it's very unlikely that you'll know that they're fixing it because your eyes are up here with your baby and you're hugging your partner and the oxytocin is flowing in the room. And, they're like, oh, okay. Like then the expectation is like, it's going to be manageable. Like it's going to be okay because there's this other thing that I'm like really excited about. So yeah, I love sharing my birth story now with my class and with anyone who asks.
Yeah, great, great. So then from what you've described, it sounds like hypnobirthing is applicable in any kind of birth environment, whether it's hospital, out of hospital, anywhere.
Yes. A lot of people think that it's, so I think it's like the H in hypnobirthing. People are like, oh, hippie birthing. And I'm like, no, it's hypnosis. It applies to anybody. Yeah, you could use it in a home birth setting, in a hospital setting. Um, I think it's especially useful in a hospital setting where you have to do a lot of advocating against like hospital policy. So like I tell people all the time, the hospital works for you. You're renting the room at the hospital, right? So like when you rent a hotel room, you're able to do whatever you want in the hotel room, right? You could put your diffuser on, you could play music, you could watch TV, you could do whatever you want in your room. Same applies to a hospital room. So a lot of times it's, when families are putting together their image of what they want their birthing room to look like, or the day that their baby is born, um, part of the reason we do that exercise is so that they start putting a list together. Like, I want to make sure that I have blankets from home because I don't like the scratchy blankets at the hospital. I want to make sure that I bring my own robe because I don't want to wear the hospital gown. I want to make sure that it smells this way and these foods are available to me. And it's kind of the whole putting into motion what you want to happen. And so, yeah, a lot of my clients are coming to me because, or a lot of the families I serve come to me because they're having a hospital birth, or they're having a birth in a place that's kind of restrictive, or they feel like they're going to get a lot of pushback to what their wishes are. So.
Are there myths to hypnobirthing? What are the things that people ask you about what hypnobirthing is and isn't?
Oh, yes. So people think that hypnobirthing is pain-free birthing. So
Mm-hmm.
people will say, "Oh, if I have a hypnobirth, it'll be pain-free, so I won't need to have any pain management or medical pain management." Or mostly people that sign up for hypnobirthing are telling their families about it, and their families are like, "Oh no, it's a it's a lie." So I like to tell people, it's still called labor. It's not called picnic. Like, it's still work. I just prefer not to use the word pain because pain is subjective, right? So what hurts me might not hurt you, or what hurts you, I might be able to tolerate. So when we talk in hypnobirthing about pain, I guess that's the myth, is that people think, oh, if I do a hypnobirth, it's going to be painless birth. There's still discomfort. There's still stretching that has to happen. There's still, body parts that need to move out of the way, and things that have to happen to your body that don't happen every day and that might feel uncomfortable. The idea with hypnobirthing is how to receive that information from your body and calm your brain down so that your body doesn't think your arm is falling off, right? So a big thing is, like, in hypnobirthing, is staying out of the fight or flight and into the rest and digest. So if you're calm and rested, then all of your hormones are flowing at the right amount. Oxygen is going through your body. You're not frozen. You're not stiff. You're not fighting your body. You're working with your body. And so that's one of the big myths, is that if I have a hypnobirth, it's going to be a pain-free birth. And I like to say, no, there's still discomfort. It's just, how do we manage that discomfort?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Another myth is that if you do a hypnobirth, that you can't accept any interventions, or that you can't accept any medical pain management, like an epidural. So people will say, I've read in a couple of blogs, like, oh, how I failed hypnobirthing. There's no pass or fail in hypnobirthing, right? If you choose to have an epidural, my whole thing is like, whatever's going to get you in a place that you're so comfortable that you get out of the way of your body so that your body can do the process of laboring and birthing your baby. And if having an epidural is one of those things, cool, have the epidural. But when you're accepting the epidural, know what the risks and benefits are, know what your alternatives are, know what your options are, know when you want to do it and why you want to do it, because that's how you feel empowered and like you can own your birth, is because you made all the choices consciously, right? Not because you were rushed or because you were pressured to. So I always tell people, like, if you want the whole cocktail, get the whole cocktail. Like, that's totally fine. It's not, yeah, it's not pass or fail. It's, did you get informed? Did you feel empowered to make the decision? And did you feel like it was the best decision that you could have made for your family at that time?
Okay, great. So what things are covered in a typical hypnobirthing class?
So I like to tell people there's kind of two main columns in hypnobirthing. One is childbirth education, right? So like I was saying in my example earlier, when I first went to my childbirth education class, I had no idea like where my uterus was. I thought my uterus was like as big as the diagram. I thought it took up my entire abdomen, you know? So part of hypnobirthing is what parts of our body are changing, why are they changing, how are they changing, what hormones make those changes. So it's a lot of like anatomy of birth so that we know how it functions. And then the other part is hypnosis for birth. So when people hear hypnosis, they think of stage hypnosis, like, oh no, Angelica's going to make me cluck like a chicken, or I'm going to be passed out during my birth. And I say, no, 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 no. And I love to give this example. Have you ever been at work and then you start to put a list together of groceries that you need? Like, I need to get milk and eggs, and I need something for that sauce I'm making. And you're like, okay, it's 5:00. You get in your car and you're like, I'm going to go to the grocery store, and you blink and you're in your garage. And you're like, well, what? I was supposed to go to the grocery store. How did this happen?
No,
That's
Angelica,
hypnosis.
I've never done that.
You've
ever.
never
No,
done that.
not even when I had 2 kids under the age of 2. Never, not once.
I'm always like, how did we get here? This is crazy. But so that's hypnosis, right? That's self-hypnosis. You're putting yourself in a state where your subconscious is kind of taking care of you, is doing all of the things to make driving happen, but you're mulling something else in your head. You're mulling over something else in your head. And that's kind of hypnosis for birth, right? Your body is doing all the actions of labor. It's opening, it's stretching, baby's making their way through the birth canal. All of those things are happening, but your brain is taking care of you so that you can manage all of those changes, right? So you're thinking maybe about, that beautiful walk you took in the woods, or you're thinking about a waterfall, or you're thinking about a rose blooming. So there's a lot of visualization in hypnobirthing. Or you're thinking about sounds that you enjoy, or touch that you enjoy. Touch from your partner. That's why partners are very important in hypnobirthing. Is like, I like to tell people, what got baby in is what's going to get baby out, right? So all of that love you felt when you made baby, all of that support you felt when you made baby, is the same love and support that is going to flow the oxytocin to help baby come when it's their birthday. But the day of their birth. I used to call it Labor Day. On Labor Day. So that's the other column. So, hypnosis for birth, how to allow my body to do what it needs to do and manage the pain through visualization and meditation and relaxation. And then what is my body doing? So the anatomy of birth.
So how do they get themselves into that state at their birth?
Do you have a key bowl by your front door, or like a hook for your keys?
Mm-hmm.
So every time you walk through your door, you kind of automatically put the keys in the bowl, right? Your body just does it. Hopefully, otherwise they end up in your purse and then you're looking for half an hour. But so there's 2 parts to that exercise, right? So you're walking through the threshold of your door. That's the anchor. Every time I walk through this threshold, my body takes the keys, puts it in the bowl. And you practice this over and over and over every day. You come in through the door, you grab your keys, put them in the bowl. Go through the door, grab your keys, put them in. To the point where you're not even thinking about it, right? It's kind of like you get in the car and you show up in your garage and you're like, I needed to go to the grocery store. Your brain made a map of that action, right? So the anchor was the threshold. The action is put the keys away. In hypnobirthing, the anchor is discomfort. So every time I have discomfort, my body does this. It takes it relaxes. or I take a deeper breath, or I search for comfort from my partner. I get my partner massages my body in a way that triggers oxytocin, so that throughout their labor, they're practicing, or their body is reacting in the way that they've been practicing their whole pregnancy. We like to tell people come to hypnobirthing at about 20 weeks, right? Or between 16 and 20 weeks is the prime time, because then you have a whole half of a pregnancy to practice these things. And the prescription is, in the morning, listen to your affirmations. So the affirmations are like, my baby is the perfect size for my body. I allow my body to release, things like that, that kind of, I like to call it armor, that kind of strengthen you up. Those are the affirmations. And then at night, you do the rainbow relaxation, which was recorded by Marie Mongan, the founder of hypnobirthing. She's a hypnotherapist by trade. That was her first, that was how she came to hypnobirthing, was she was a hypnotherapist first. But so the rainbow relaxation is a progressive body relaxation. So you start at the head and you start to shut down all these parts of your body so that they start to relax and release and let go. So now, if you've been listening to the affirmations and the rainbow relaxation for 20 weeks, when you get to the point of Labor Day, if you are feeling discomfort, you can trigger back that action, right? So the anchor is the distraction, or not the distraction, sorry. You feel the discomfort, you can release the stress and allow the calm to come.
And now, a quick word from our sponsor. I want to tell you about two moms and their experience with their childbirth class. They both take a full series of childbirth courses. They both have birth partners who attend those courses. They both learn tools and techniques to manage their labor and birth, but only one of them is actually prepared to help herself during birth. Only one of them is actually confident in her communication tools. And only one of them is actually prepared for the nature of birth. How do I know? I was the mom who took a class, but wasn't prepared to help myself during birth after that class. I was the mom who didn't have the right communication tools. I was the mom who was caught off guard by the nature of birth. And now, because of what I learned from my experiences, my students like Jen and Maria and Susan, who took our online childbirth course, the Natural Birth Compass program, they are the ones who have the inner confidence and knowledge of birth to help themselves, to communicate clearly to their whole birth team, to set themselves up for being strong throughout birth, and to take control of decision-making throughout their birth. Want to know how you can have this level of inner confidence for yourself? Visit us at naturalbirthcompass.com, where you can read how Jen and Maria and Susan used their natural birth compass in their births, and prepare yourself to have the inner confidence you need no matter what path your birth takes. And now, back to your Journey to Birth podcast. How does the hypno doula part fit in to the whole family preparation and family support that you offer?
Everybody loves a doula because a doula is there to provide comfort. But the most pleasurable comfort you're going to get is from your birth partner, right? But your birth partner, it's their birth too. So during labor, people forget a lot of stuff, right? So not only do you forget your whole birth back, but you forget a lot of the skills that you learned, right? Or you just need a reminder, or your birth partner, even though they might be super prepared and, took all the notes. And I have birth partners who put Post-its on the book and okay, I'm ready for the day of. They might forget how to trigger the relaxation, right? So as a hypnobirthing doula, it's nice for me to be there because I can kind of read the room and, just kind of nudge the partner. Hey, now would be a good time to do a countdown. And so the partner will be like, yeah. Okay, let's start at 30. And then we'll start 30, 29, 28. And while the partner is doing that, maybe I'm, providing counter pressure, or I'm massaging feet, or I'm getting water. So it's just kind of, I serve as a reminder. The other thing is, because people have come to class for, 5 weeks in a row, they get really comfortable with the sound of my voice, and they get really comfortable with, this isn't my hypnosis voice. I have a much smoother, deeper hypnosis voice. But so people get comfortable with that, and they want to hear that voice. And mostly I'm there to provide support to the partner so that the partner can be at 100%. So they can provide support to the birthing person. A lot of times too, the hypnosis for birth works on the partner. A lot of the times I have a lot of partners who are, hyperventilating in a corner because they're just so overwhelmed with what's going on. And then I just do like, hey, let's just do a couple of breaths together. I help center the partner, and then the partner can pull themselves together to come help the birthing person. So that's been what most people ask me to come do. The other thing too is like, it's just nice to have a childbirth educator around because they can kind of give you the play by play. I like to tell people labor is like going into a haunted house, but you have the floor plan. You've been to a haunted house and you feel scared and nervous to go into the haunted house? Like, nothing bad's going to happen, but something might jump out of there, or I don't know what's going to happen here. Going to labor with a doula is like having the floor plan. She's going to say, oh, well, from the news that the doctor gave us or the care provider gave us, we can decide. I just kind of help guide the family through the next milestone and, how to get comfortable for the next milestone and get comfortable for the next milestone. So,
Yeah, so it sounds like they get a little bit of the best of both worlds with that, where they have your doula knowledge and your childbirth educator knowledge, but then they also get the piece of you being able to read the affirmations to them and bring
hmm
them back into that space where you've already built that up over those
hmm
previous weeks.
yeah, we
So,
have this
wow.
exercise in class where there's a key word. So in order to use the keyword in labor, so you have to like install the keyword. So we install the keyword in class, and then there's a countdown. And so it's funny because sometimes that's all I do, all like for 12 hours of labor. I'm just like, keyword, take a breath, 3, 2, 1, and it's funny because like, yeah, in comparison to my doula counterparts who are doing a lot of counter pressure, a lot of rubbing feet, like I'm doing a lot more work of how to keep people calm, how to keep people, centered and focused on what they're doing. So
So I'm curious, what are the kinds of things that you hear families say after they've had this kind of birth experience?
a lot of first time moms come and try hypnobirthing, and then they have their baby and they come back and then they say, I thought you were full of it until I did it. And it was easy. And easy again is a subjective word, right? Easy might be easy for me, easy for you. But the point is that they felt like it was a comfortable birth for them. And that's what makes me happy, is that people feel empowered after their birth. Moms that have come to hypnobirthing after they've had children, so maybe they had a traumatic birth, or they're coming after having a C-section, and now they really want to feel empowered or try for a natural birth, always feel like, yes, everyone told me I couldn't, but I did it. And that high is just, oh, it can fill a room. You know how exuberant people feel after they've done something that somebody told them they couldn't. And so, yeah, hypnobirthing. And I just went through my own birth, and I felt the same way, like, oh, I'm just selling lies. And then I was able to center myself, because my partner was been to hypnobirthing class with me, and he was able to help me, focus and like, okay, you're frustrated, you're feeling upset, take a deep breath. Let's center ourselves. Let's welcome our baby. Our baby's almost here. And then I was like, you're right. And then our baby was born, and I felt the high. I filled the room with the like excitement of having a baby. And so hypnobirthing, it's not it's not pain-free. That's not what we're selling, or it's not what we're teaching. It's empowerment. It's, do you feel like you got to be the boss of your birth? Do you feel like you got to make all the choices? Do you feel like you were the one in charge of your best interest and your baby's best interest? And that's what I think most hypnobirthing families walk away with. At least that's what we personally walked away with. Even if you think you can, it'll surprise you what your body can do.
That's a great thing to be leaving a birth with. Angelica, can you share with us the one thing that you wish all expectant families knew to help their journey to birth?
It surprises me every time how little confidence we have in our own body. How we think, oh, there's no way that I could do that. Or, I show a video in every class of a hypnobirth, and moms always say, that's not real. That's not a real birth. She must be like an Olympian or something. Like, no, they're all the same. Everybody has all the same tools. Some bodies are different, some circumstances are different, but what you can do with your body will surprise you. And the amount of time that you spend laboring and bringing your baby to the world is so small in comparison to the time you spent growing that baby. and in the time you're going to spend loving that baby, that once you get to the other side, or even while you're expecting, you would do anything for this baby, right? You would stand in the rain for hours for this baby. You would, jump in front of a car for this baby. You would do anything. And so the idea of being able to bring them to Earthside in a calm and loving and confident way is so exciting to me. And I want families to feel that. I want them to feel like, I can do it. And I can do it because I love my baby and I love my family and I love myself enough to believe that I can do it and believe that we were made to do it and that we can work together to do it. And, babies do so much work to be born. That's why they're so tired when they come out. And yeah, even if special circumstances come up during your pregnancy or, things that you weren't expecting, like, maybe you got diagnosed with something or you have a very stressful pregnancy, none of those stressors or things that come up are even going to match the joy and the love and the excitement that you're going to have when you lock eyes with your baby. Nothing in the world can match that. And your leg could have fallen off and you would still, claw your way to look and make eye contact with your baby and just find all the love in the universe in those two little eyes. So I just want people to know you can do it. And it's hard work. It takes work. It's a huge thing you're doing for your family, and you're the only one that could do it. And you should feel like a goddess doing it. And you should have a team that's totally supporting you, and you should feel confident and empowered. And that's why people have more than one sometimes, they just end up feeling really good about it. So
thank you. That was wonderful. Like all of that love kind of transforming that into confidence that you really can do this thing is so much bigger than just you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's beautiful. All right. So can you tell us how people can find you if they would like to reach out to you, or for people who are local in the Seattle, Tacoma area, if they want to contact you about classes or about your doula work?
Yes, everybody can find me on our website, which is just tacomahypnobirthing.com. I'm on Facebook and Instagram as at tacomahypnobirthing.com. And I teach in both Seattle and Tacoma, and I teach group classes and private classes. So I'm always happy to meet you where you are or meet you at our office. You could call, email, text. I stay at home with my kids during the week when I'm not teaching, so I'm always happy to check in with people. And if hypnobirthing is something you're curious about, I always tell people, come chat with me first. If you don't have to jump in with both feet right away. Like, just come chat and tell me what you're looking for or what you're feeling for. And if it's not hypnobirthing, I'm happy to put you in the right direction. But education's important, and feeling like you've got all the tools is important. So.
And is there a place for people to go who are not local to the Seattle and Tacoma area, but really want to check out hypnobirthing?
Yes. So you can check out, you can find a hypnobirthing educator in your area by going to hypnobirthing.com. So it's the international website. If you're in Australia, there's also an Australian hypnobirthing branch. On the website, you can click on for parents and then find a practitioner. And then you just type in your zip code and all the hypnobirthing practitioners in your area will pop up. Look for the gold seal. It's Marie Mongan's Hypnobirthing the Mongan method. There's a couple of variations, but if you're looking for the original, look for the Mongan method, and it's a gold sealed with a mom and a baby, I think is the icon.
And it's Mongan, Mongan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Marie Mongan, yeah.
Great. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I feel like we could go on forever, and I'm really sad for this conversation to end, but we are going to run out of time. So I want to take a minute to thank you so much for joining me on the Journey to Birth podcast today and giving us insight into hypnobirth and what a hypnobirth looks like. I know I learned a lot about it that I did not know before, so I'm sure our listeners are getting a lot of great information too. And also, thank you for bringing this work up to the Seattle and Tacoma area. I know many of our local families have already benefited from your work, and many more are going to just continue to benefit in the years ahead on their own journey to birth. I am going to leave all your contact info in the show notes for this episode so people can find you if they would like to reach out. Thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Journey to Birth podcast and being open to new perspectives as we spent this time together. You can find Angelica at tacomahypnobirthing.com, and I'll put her information in the show notes so you can check out her classes and doula services and contact her if you're getting ready to expand your family and want to learn whether hypnobirthing is right for you. As always, let me know how I can support your journey. If you have topics you want to hear about, guests you want to hear from, questions or comments to share, let me know. This podcast is always transforming, and you can help shape it into something that helps thousands of families have the best pregnancy, birth, and transition into parenthood possible by leaving a comment or review so they can find us, or sharing this podcast with others in your life who will benefit from our discussions. Find me on the socials at Natural Birth Compass, or email me at info@naturalbirthcompass.com, and don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss out on our next episode. Wishing you a wonderful journey to birth.